How to build a Blackgates Sweet Pea 5-inch gauge locomotive, part 28, cleaning and shaping the coupling rods and connecting rods, and drilling the oil holes in the ends. Quite a few parts of this locomotive are not very well made, and that does include the coupling rods and the connecting rods. I'm cleaning up the connecting rods and coupling rods on the belt sander in the outer part of the workshop. This is a very simple job, but you do have to exercise great control. One slip and the rod will be ruined, so I'm being extremely careful not to damage anything. When I refit the wheels and the coupling rods to the chassis, I'm going to mount these upside down because the holes in the top for oil just don't work. You can put as much oil as you like in the top of the brasses, but it doesn't get through to the bearing because the shaft that holds the brasses together is in the way, and what you have to do is relieve the shaft at this point, and I don't want to do that because it makes them weak. So when I remount the coupling rods to the wheel sets, I will fit them upside down so the holes are at the bottom. And very shortly I will show you the starting point for a lubrication system suitable for this type of big end brass. This term is a bit misleading because they are not made from brass, they are made from gunmetal, which, even though it does look like brass, is entirely different. It's suitable for bearings, whereas brass isn't. It wears out extremely quickly. What I'm trying to do here is round the edges of both the brasses and the steel parts, which makes the item look a lot better, and it's safer because it's not going to be sharp anymore. I spent quite a while cleaning these up on the belt sander because they were very badly made. And here I'm using the polishing spindle just to help the process along, although I did go back to the belt sander for one or two of these after I did this. I have to be practical with this build. I could have built one of these locomotives completely from the beginning, but really if I do that I have a problem. It would appear that the more episodes I make, the less viewers that I get. And that's no good because I actually do this these days for a living. The revenue that I get from YouTube is not sensational. Neither is the revenue that I get from Patreon, but between the two, it's okay. The frequency and continuity of the videos depends on my Patreon supporters. After a while, the coupling rods and the connecting rods started to look a bit better. So now it's time to take the parts over to the workbench and do a bit of manual cleaning using some Scotch-Brite to start with. I'm never going to get this locomotive to look pristine and new, so I've set a level at which I currently need to work at. I do not want to get obsessive because, as the saying goes, you cannot make a silk purse out of a sow's ear. For instance, I could remake every one of these coupling rods and connecting rods, but that would take considerable time, be very repetitive and very boring from a video point of view. Really, I do not have the time. I put many hours into what I do already, and owing to my current health issues, I don't want to overdo things. Although I still seem to manage to make a video almost every day. Why is this? Well, because it's what I do and it's what I enjoy. The rest of the time I work in my recording studio and play a computer game called Skyrim, and I'm on level 228 I think, and climbing. The Scotch-Brite gives me the type of finish that I want. I never like over-polished parts, they just don't look good, and the more you polish them, the more of the detail you knock off. The main part of the rods are quite rusty, so I'm cleaning these up using some wet to dry sandpaper. This is 400 grit. There's still a way to go. At this point I'm thinking, should I paint the rods red? A lot of these type of locomotives have red coupling rods and fittings. I'll give that a bit of thought as the job progresses. At the moment they're cleaning up fairly well. But the jobs that you've been watching in their entirety took 3.5 hours to complete. Now it's over to my trusty Smart & Brown lathe, and in the chuck I put one of the coupling rods. There's already a hole in the end of this one, and it's a bit big, so by using a centre drill I'm drilling a cone in the steel part, which will be very useful for accepting the spout of an oil can. This process, however, is only the beginning. Using this centre drill, I need to make a cone shape in every one of the brasses, just in the steel part. I was quite lucky. On the connecting rods the holes were in the middle, but when I started to drill the coupling rods with the centre drill, the holes were not in the middle. Cosmetically it doesn't look too brilliant, but functionally it's fine. Once I've centre drilled the ends of both of the connecting rods and the coupling rods, I will drill a small hole through the brass itself, and then after dismantling each of the rods one at a time, I can mill an oil reservoir in the outer part of the gunmetal. And this should work quite well. I've done it before. You can clearly see in this clip that not everything is as it should be. The steel end cap is a bit smaller than the gunmetal, but it should be okay. I can live with it. Apart from the video revenue, which is not going to be staggering, this is a non-profit making exercise. I'm building this locomotive for my friend James Evans, who lives in Darlington. And all James will pay me is the price I paid for the engine in the first place. It's a convenient way to get James, who's only 17, an engine to run on the track up at Tees Cottage pumping station, which is where he is a volunteer. Here I'm drilling a hole all the way through the brass into where the bearing will be, and I'm using a 3/32 of an inch diameter twist drill for this. I don't want to drill too small a hole, because the smaller the hole, the more likely it is to get blocked up. 3/32 is a good size. Then what I'm going to do, as I mentioned earlier, is mill some of the outer part of the gunmetal brass to form an oil box at the outer end of every one of them. I'll make James a right-angled oil can adapter to lubricate the front bearing, which is very close to the cylinder. The good thing is all of these parts were marked. Each of the components has a number on, apart from this one, which was ground away when I cleaned it up. But now, thanks to this small set of number stamps, I've re-stamped a number on each of the parts where they've been ground away. In the next episode I'm going to be doing some painting, and I need to paint this part. This is the way shaft that allows the blocks to rock back and forth. I'm not painting the blocks, only the metal parts in between. In the next episode I'll be giving the chassis a coat of satin black paint and painting this part with self-etch primer. And until then, stay safe, stay healthy, thanks for watching, and I hope you found it useful. Please take the time to visit my Mainsteam Models website and click on the section of the website that says Video Playlists. And by doing that, you can find other videos that you may like to watch. And by using the playlists, you can actually watch the videos back to back.